Welcome to our session. My name is Artsiom Zhavarankau, and together with Marcel, we will talk about money today. First of all, I also want to give you some hints about the IBB itself. We are a business development bank from the federal state of Berlin, and that's why we have some different strategic business fields as maybe other commercial banks. We have also a banking book and a bigger housing and urban development department. But me, myself, as a key account manager for ICT, is responsible for the business development and the economy support in the city. I'm not leading the department, but I'm part of it. And our main target is to create jobs in the city, but also to support companies. And we have also a major focus on startups. Our tools are very different to each other, and we have a lot of consultancy support. We have grants, public money, which you don't have to pay back. But also we have loans as an offer to companies which are break-even, for example, and different equity models, for example, from IBB Ventures. And yeah, of course, in the beginning of a startup, there's always the question how to start up the business, which first steps should I take, and which kind of money is fitting to my best business model. And that's why we will talk with Marcel from QoD Technologies in detail about his way and about his background. Marcel, you have a doctoral degree, and now you're leading a startup which combines chemistry and cloud-based software solutions. So maybe you can introduce yourself to the audience and explain how you do this.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Marcel Quennet, CEO and co-founder of QoD Technologies. With my two co-founders, Vincent Pohl and Günther Hermann, we started the company in 2019 to make chemical simulations in general more easy to use, or as easy to use as possible, and also accessible for everyone. And we do this because we want to substitute as many lab experiments you normally do in chemical and pharmaceutical research and development with our simulations, so that we can make our customers' product development faster, easier, and more efficient, and especially also more sustainable, because you do not have to do the lab experiments anymore.
Right. Thank you, Marcel. By the way, if you have any questions, just type it into the chat, and afterwards, after my questions are done, we can also take some minutes to answer your questions, Marcel, as me as well. So let's go on, Marcel. Of course, it's very interesting to know a little bit more about your way. And first of all, also the question, which events were responsible for your intention to found a business? So you have a big research story behind you. And at which point was it the trigger to say, all right, it's time to start up a business?
Yeah, this actually came during our PhD program. So all, the three of us, we made our PhD in quantum chemistry, where we had to do a lot of simulations, and we've seen that they are quite useful for substituting lab experiments. But we asked ourselves the question: why do they not use these simulations in the industry on a larger scale? And that's where this idea started. So we tried to figure out where does the status quo actually come from? Why are only big companies are using it, or a few of those are using it, and not smaller ones? And this is where the idea started in general. And from that point, we worked our way through the mud to find out how the status quo actually exists, or why especially.
All right. So this was the focus on the chemistrical side, but there is also maybe some points about the business development itself. So which first steps did you take after deciding to start this business, and after this search time for the chemistry points?
Yeah, actually, we first had to finish our PhD of some sort, so this was a bit longer of a process. And after our PhDs, we started on the side during our jobs, and at some point we figured out that if we have to go all in to make it work. And that's when we had a look at funding possibilities, because I mean, we are developing a product, so we need to have some pre-finance to actually develop it.
All right, that's a great point, to go all in. Yeah, I think that's a major point if you decide to start up a business, and if you want to be really successful, at some point you have to say, yeah, it's time to do this. Nice, thank you. All right, the next question block. How heavily do you weight the financing structure of a startup? That's just a basic question from my point of view. So I've learned economics, and this point to me is very important. So what about you as a CEO of a startup?
I mean, especially when you start a startup, it's one of the crucial points in building up a company, because you have to think about where do you get money from and how do you use it to build up a more or less sustainable company. And in the beginning, it's quite easy if you're only the founding team and you put some money in and start a company. But you will reach a point in the near future where you have to get some money from customers or investors, and that's a point where it gets crucial, where you have to have a long-term plan on hand.
Yeah. And that's also the point of view of a business development bank, but from an investor itself as well. So in general, that's a major point, and that's why it's very important to pay a major focus on the financing structure. Marcel, you applied for a lot of funding programs, as I heard, or as I know you applied for our programs, but that were not the only ones. So which commonalities have you noticed, or which differences as well?
So we also applied for the Berlin Startup Grant and Exist Business Grant. The commonalities are, in general, the application process is a bit lengthy in terms of you have to write longer applications to that, like a business plan to acquire these fundings, and also the application approval takes some time. So you have to have, if you really start a company and try to rely on that, you have to have some money on the bank.
In general, the descriptions should be quite detailed for Exist as well, for example, or not?
Yes, you basically have to write a business plan for each of those.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next block. Yeah, that's a longer question, but in general, it also has a focus on your background and your story. You decided not to go the way as a lot of startups go. You decided to look for public money or for other opportunities, and not to construct a high scalable business model and to look for the help of a VC. But in general, VCs are often themselves as partners, or describe themselves as very useful partners. And for the most constellations, it works. So how do you rate the search for VCs in Berlin? What did you hear about this?
I mean, of course, I've also talked to a lot of VCs. I think Berlin is a really good place to start and search for VCs. But I mean, since COVID hit us last year, it's, I think, not that crucial anymore to be on site all the time, because due to tools like Zoom and so on, you can easily get in touch with everybody around the world, also of Germany. So it's easier nowadays, I think. Mm-hmm. But in general, Berlin is quite comfortable from the VC side. Yeah.
So in detail, which reasons were crucial for you to decide to step forward without VC or to work? Was it like the offer of the public programs because they fit that good to your business model or to your ideas? Or had you also next steps? I heard you also participated in a hub and got a network there. Which reasons were there to say VCs are not essential for us?
So we had many reasons. One of the reasons is that we were, of course, also quite early stage when we started fundraising. So of course it's venture capital and risk capital, but it seemed to me that the risk was too high at that point, especially during COVID, because we started fundraising when COVID hit, and VCs had also other problems. In general, the whole public funding fitted better to our business model in general. And that's why we did not go the VC way and started going the let's say, public funding way in this case. But of course, it's not everything is possible without some sort of private equity capital.
Yeah, that's right. But also the VC has maybe a different opinion on the business model itself, or they're only looking for maybe high scalable business models, and that's why there is also a factor from the outside to maybe your point how to develop the company. But it's very interesting. Marcel, you applied for profit, but also for profit Frühphase or profit early stage, as it's called in English. Just to be honest, which positive but also negative aspects could you mention about the process itself?
I really like both programs because the cost of capital is not that high. In the general, the process, of course, since it's public money somehow, the process is a bit lengthy. So you have to do more or less a business plan or extended business plan on what you want to do with the money. And this takes time on your side, but also on the side, on the approval side, because there have to be some experts who have to evaluate everything. And this takes a few months sometimes. And especially, of course, I know why it's taken so long. The IBB has a lot to do with the COVID public, I do not know the support, and that's why the process is a bit lengthy at the moment. But for us, it's not a problem.
All right. So it was possible for you to calculate the time, and yeah, you had some experiences with the other support programs, which is also a positive factor to apply for such programs as Profit. For the agile VC-funded startups, it is sometimes said that Profit, for example, is very bureaucratical. How did you mention the application process? So did you ask, for example, for external help, or did you manage it yourself?
So I think so. We asked for external help. We worked with a consultant during the application process just to speed everything up on our side, basically. Right. Because it makes sense to not do every mistake you can do during the application process, and then you can easily skip a few weeks in the application time.
All right. So from your point of view, it was essential for you to save time, and that's why you used external help to apply for it, and not to make more mistakes, as you said.
Exactly. Yes. You can also do it without external help, of course. I think the program is quite well suited for that. All
right. So that's a quite usual opinion on this point, because I think it's important to know that programs like Profit are some kind of bureaucratical, but and you have to make a lot of things to apply for it. But nevertheless, it's public money, and that's why also an institution like ours has to have a high approval as, for example, maybe other institutions. All right, so these are my backup questions for you. Marcel, what are your favorite development scenarios for your company?
Well, of course, since we're having a big vision in mind, we want to be the leader in the field of computational chemistry, especially cloud-based computational chemistry. To reach that goal, we have to further grow the company in the future. I mean, nowadays we are 12 people. I guess we will not stop there. Yeah. So we have to grow, and we have and will grow on the personal side, and also we are trying to achieve profitability in the next years. All right.
So your two major points are to growth, but also to growth in a profitable way. So not only to look on the sales and how to penetrate the market, but also that it happens in a healthy way. All right.
Yes.
Marcel, final question from my side. Which general tips do you have for ambitious founders?
One tip, I think, one thing every founder should have in mind is that if you have an idea, first thing before even starting to code or build something, talk to people. Go outside, talk to people coming from the market you want to penetrate, and gain as many insights as possible before even starting producing anything. Because this is quite valuable in helping you building the proper product market fit in the end. Mm-hmm. So in short, talk. Talk.
All right. All right. So in the chat we have no questions, but we have Anya in a request queue. So I'll plus her in and hope she can join. Anya, can you hear us? Not in the moment.
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Maybe another point, Marcel, which is interesting to me because we're here, we're in Berlin, you as well, and we are talking the digital way with each other, but we are talking in English.
Yes.
So, how is it for you and from your experience in the last two and a half years? How important is English in our ecosystem today?
It's actually really important. I mean, our main language in the office at the moment is German, but in general with customers, most of the time we have to talk in English, and that's why also our website is in English, our pitch deck is in English. Basically everything is in English, what reaches customers.
All right.
So it's the basis, basically.
Yeah. Right. So that's why you want to expand maybe and not to stay in the German market in the future. So
yeah, our customer group within companies, especially larger corporates, they are most of the time English speaking because they come from a broader field, like coming from Spain or from the US, and so the common language is English there. So you have to be suited for that.
Yeah. But on the other side, if you apply, for example, for our profit, it's only possible in German. How is your point of view on this?
I think it should also be possible to do it in English because I think the program is really good, and that's a way to make it more accessible for more people. Yeah.
Because a lot of, I think in our ecosystem, English becomes more and more important, and a lot of teams are speaking English because we're an international city, and there are a lot of people from all over the world here, and you need some kind of a language to discuss and to step forward and to grow your company. So it's my point on this as well. But nevertheless, if you, for example, as a CEO, are thinking about things like taxes or different law points, I think Germany is nevertheless a quite bureaucratical country. So, for example, if you need some public services, it's very, very undigital and high bureaucratic. What is your point on this, for example, or a tip for international startup teams that are moving to Berlin or to Germany?
If you want to start a company here in Germany, I would suggest getting help from somebody, be it a mentor or mentoring from someone who has founded a company here before, or some consultant, because it's quite tricky, because especially if you do it the first time, even if you're a native German speaker, you will do everything wrong you can. And this creates a lot of headaches.
Yeah. So some kind of MBA to start up in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. All right. So is there anybody in the queue or any other questions? All right. So if we're waiting for more questions, maybe Marcel, you have maybe some minutes just to tell us more about QoD. Which points should we know about you?
Yeah, maybe I can start from the beginning, basically, tell a bit more about what we do. So in general, we are building a easy-to-use computational chemistry platform. Within this platform, you can simulate parts of lab experiments. So you can do it digitally and do not have to go into the lab. And this saves a lot of time, money, and is also quite favorable for the environment because you do not use a lot of chemicals and so on, do not have to dispose of them. And we do that, these simulations, going basically to the fundamentals of physics, meaning we do this on a quantum chemical level. That means we simulate electrons in materials or molecules. And out of this simulation, we can say, for example, this molecule I want to create will be blue or red. Mm-hmm. So I do not have to do that in the lab. Or I can say, okay, my molecule is red, but I want to have it blue. So I can design it on a computer to make it blue instead of red. And that's what our platform offers.
All right. So that means that maybe all bigger companies or your consumers from this side are able to save money for a high-paid lab time, for example, yeah?
Yeah, first of all, for lab time in general, so many companies out there are not able to actually invest in this simulation space, because if you want to do it, you normally need some up to supercomputing power. Somehow, you have to get it somewhere. This is often not feasible. Do it on site, on premises, like buying a supercomputer. Mm-hmm. Then you need special software, and you need a lot of experts like I am to handle this software. And this is quite expensive, especially if you need it like for once or twice a month. And with our cloud-based solution, we can do that on demand. Right. So you only pay for what you need, and that's how we make it accessible also for every company out there.
Yeah, that's a nice point. So if I understand you right, your next steps would also to acquire chemistry-based companies as people that use your platform.
Yes, so we are in the broader space of the chemical and pharmaceutical industry, but of course we have a specialization there. So we are focusing on the chemistry side and material side, and not so much on the pharmaceutical side at the moment.
Right. But it's also a possibility for you in the future, also to switch a little bit your model.
Definitely, because the simulation, the technology is quite broadly applicable. Okay. But then, of course, as a startup, you have to focus in the beginning. You cannot do everything at once.
Yeah, that's right. That's why there are some public support programs which should help you to find the right focus.
Exactly.
Right. So maybe the last question, because we also talked about the application process itself for public money, and for cases as profit where you're applying maybe for €1 million. It's quite bureaucratical. It also needs a lot of time. But what about your preparation and your invested time, even with the external support? How much time have you invested into the preparation itself?
I think for the application process, for writing everything, I guess I needed a 1 month full-time work on that. Correct. So writing or refining the business plan, and also writing the things we want to do within the profit program, because you have to like make a plan, a real plan, like what do you want to achieve, and how do you want to achieve it, and when, and which time steps. And for the planning, we needed like a month for that, and with external help, of course. Normally, it can also take a bit longer. I heard from other companies where it took like several months. And normally you do not have the time for that as a young company. Yeah.
So you have maybe another focus, and that's why I think it's important also to know that there are some limitations. And of course, as a CEO or just as a founded team, you have, of course, other major points to do, to network, to find some consumers, for example, or some pilots. People to join your company or something. All right, Marcel, I think we're at the end. There are no more questions from this point.